quite the day, lots of updates to go through. It's been very busy. Would first like to add that Florida Keepers is here to grow, to keep growing. We've done very well. And then in my personal and professional capacity, will obviously still be going for conservation, for promoting the wildlands protection of Florida and all that stuff. And I can hit on that a bit at the end here. But first, the Ocklawaha. Obviously, we've covered this before. That is the removal of the Kirkpatrick Dam up there to let that flow again, and it would revive 20 springs that were essentially drowned out when they were trying to build the Cross Florida Canal. The Florida Springs Council has a bunch of great and more details on this and a action item. You can go there to reach out to the corresponding elected officials, so head over to them. Obviously, still down at Homestead, there's the protections of the Redlands over that way. There is a July 17th commission meeting now where obviously you can share your voice, and a recent article that Jose just covered in the video in the Florida Keepers page talked about how the developer is essentially kind of bad-mouthing the locals now, and it's getting a little bit tensions there. So definitely take a look at that. Also, just recently, it's a victory, kind of. So the Pine Rocklands obviously is a very, very rare ecosystem left in Florida and in North America, especially here in Florida. And there was a little piece of it in Palmetto Village that was kind of, up for debate. It's been saved as of the last meeting, but it's also like a stipulation where they won't develop there, but the areas around it are still liable, and it's not as concrete as obviously we would hope to be, but it's something. Also, the Loggerhead Marine Center just posted just recently, a couple days ago, but boaters need to be very critical, especially around this part of, West Palm Beach, all the way through down to other southern parts of Florida with the sea turtle nesting that's going on right now. Obviously, you've seen from my videos, there's dozens and dozens of turtles on the beach each night, and there's obviously turtles moving in during the day, and boaters just have to be extra cautious with these large marine animals, especially ones that are protected and are vulnerable in many populations. We want to keep these guys alive. And on a side note of that, obviously loggerheads are coming in, greens are coming in, leatherback turtles are just now hatching. I saw a hatchling in a heron's mouth at the beach while I was there, so that's exciting. Obviously, want to see some live hatchlings. On the topic of sea turtle nesting, over in Sanibel and Captiva, the west side of the state, they are doing, re-nourishments of the beach, which is you add more sand, you make it more, it can help for aesthetic, tourist reasons, for hurricane mitigation, all this stuff, and it's not bad reasons, obviously, they're usually very good, but they're trying to do it right now, and they're going forward with it, with relocating the turtle nests, taking them out of the ground, and then waiting, and then, putting them somewhere else while this whole beach essentially gets more sand. There's a bit of a problem here. Obviously, nothing against the people that are actively doing that work for these turtle places, that know how to do it in the best way they can, for sure. But it's a little concerning how right now we're moving the beach sand and we're adding more right now when it could have been done, way before. Because I would argue any mitigation into a nest of many and most animals is it's an unnecessary risk that we're now taking. So I'm doing more research into exact stakeholders who made that decision. Obviously, with decades of turtle research and all this, they know what's best. Obviously, they know what's well, but sometimes these municipal stakeholders or maybe tourist interests or interests that are maybe a bit misaligned with this topic are pushing forward on what isn't the best thing for these sea turtle nests. Also, obviously, right now we have Alligator Alcatraz, and this is a very, very contentious issue because it doesn't just concern the environment, but also concerns many people's thoughts on immigration. Illegal, legal, however you want to view it, immigration is a focal point of this. Now, Florida Keepers, obviously, we're very concerned that this could be a long-standing, essentially project in this area of the Everglades. And mind you, there are many places of the Everglades that have old industrial sites of, jets, Cold War era stuff, rockets, all this other scientific stuff that lay abandoned, but could arguably be used for projects or larger developments. That's why this is concerning. And on the note of it being more, certainly very polarizing for many issues around, immigration, Florida Keepers is just looking at the environmental effect of it. Now, you can have that concern of immigration or whatever it is, whether it's, right, left, middle, libertarian, whatever it is. But at least through Florida Keepers, our members are encouraged to just focus on the environmental impact and what the future could lie if we have a much more long-standing project there. And I would like to add, this is causing a bit of a frill and some divisiveness within the conservation, environmental, wildland sphere of Florida stuff, especially online, which a lot of that is just talk, but it is something that's kind of causing some undue contention, especially when we should all be in agreement on that we don't want the Everglades, whatever the purpose is, to be developed. Also, in Bunnell, there is a large development that was thought to be essentially killed, but now it's been brought up by the mayor somehow, maybe encouraged, brought up again. This is a big development in the area. It's very concerning. We also have concerns of the new expressway and toll roads going through Seminole and central Polk County. These are areas where its last remaining parts, especially at Lake Wills Ridge and all that stuff, that last ridge in Florida, essentially when Florida, many years ago, that was a dry spot. That ecosystem is, it's being cut away so fast, and this would be another project right in the middle of that. Very unfortunate, but there are several groups. The Instagram that I tagged is on here, and also the Save Split Oak is also putting some attention to this. Also, DeSantis did sign a very good bill, the Senate Bill 1622. This helps essentially speed track beach restoration efforts by removing some of the red tape. It also helps with beach access. So it's a generally pretty good bill. But obviously with beaches, sea turtles, this has been a topic of late. And of course, the rock mine. This is still a threat. This is still the Southland Water Resource Project that we're looking at in the Everglades, a historical part of the Everglades that now has sugarcane on it. That would be a much more intensive use of the land. So Florida Keepers, myself, and many others you can see online and in person are, trying to stay on top of this, trying to put out as much current information because we don't want that right there so close to the current Everglades. And also through Alligator Alcatraz, there's another peaceful but powerful rally this Saturday hosted by Betty Asiala, part of the Miccosukee. This protest is focused on the Everglades and that wild area through the lens of the tribes and the Miccosukee there. So that will be a very good protest. Obviously, it's not meant to be something else. It's meant to just be about Alligator Alcatraz. Obviously, they're saying be peaceful, and it'll be a very good way to just bring attention to such a big issue. And to finish out, there are a few people bad-mouthing Florida Keepers, its name, and parts of its board. Now, as I address with Alligator Alcatraz, there are many issues being brought into this, especially immigration and other parts of the administration policies. And some environmental groups and people within those want these groups to not just take an environmental stance on Alligator Alcatraz, but also a political, partisan, and a policy issue on this. And it might be very important, but they're trying to deviate some of these groups to be a lot more partisan right now. And that's something that is just, with Florida Keepers, we're trying to bring multiple stakeholders, multiple parties to preserve wildland and to elect real Floridians, true Floridians, who will preserve our wild land. So there's a bit of disagreement maybe with that. There's a bit of rehashing and digging up of people's fun they had in college student government and whatnot. And it's all frivolous stuff. Obviously, we're going to keep growing. But just in case of what you hear, obviously know that we're here to go by action, to get things done, to go by results, because there's plenty enough for Florida to deal with. There's plenty for Florida to deal with, and plenty for us to all do.